Councillor Light on?
I'm just curious with respect to that comment, and we don't have the information. If we were to receive an application for consideration, development proposal, for be it a hotel, be it additional apartments, be it a subdivision, whatever the case may be, would we want to go out and check market conditions? And would we ask, are we having enough housing stock here to accommodate, be it temporary, full-time, long-time, whatever? Typically, no, in a free market system and so on, does it meet the MPS, does it meet the land use bylaw, does it meet the architectural guidelines, and whatever other policies and vehicles that are in place through councils? I don't believe it says that part of the argument. I don't think is where the information that council is looking for, or this committee has any business in checking out. Somebody wants to open another pizza store or another drug store or another grocery store. Nobody went out and said, we got enough tomatoes for sale on Main Street now. So I don't see that as part of the consideration personally.
I'll quit after this. The significant difference, however, Mr. Mayor, is that this is not simply a hotel. It's entirely at the discretion of the operator. So I sign a 12-month lease with my tenant. I'm guaranteed that income. I then have the option, if that tenant doesn't happen to be there for some period of time, to, presumably in some agreement with the tenant, reimburse them, take over that part of their lease and rent it on a regular basis as a hotel. That's an entirely different model than the Rose Lawns or the others that we're talking about. And we're allowing that to happen because we're allowing us to be both a residence and a hotel. So I still feel that there's an issue there, but I give up. I've said all that I need to say.
Yes, Paul.
I just want to clarify the 33-20%. 20% means that on any given night, at most 20% of the, well, it should mean that, but
the phrase is the aggregate total yearly occupancy for the residential units for the hotel purposes does not exceed 20%. Aggregate total yearly occupancy. So
I would then.
We're not allowed to talk about these. Oh, I guess we are. This isn't.
Yes, we are. I would favor a maximum percentage per night, and that's the way I would approve it.
Would that satisfy many objections?
We addressed the scenario that I painted earlier, which I think is the most damaging one. It would clarify the requirement.
It would also make this building harder to pay for. If there is.
It's not our concern.
No, it's not. But if it becomes no longer economically viable, we won't have it. So that is something that we need to be cognizant of.
Yes, there's a.
No, I'm just telling you, Dale.
Oh, sorry, Dale.
Just a couple of things that as I sit here listening, I wasn't here for the original presentation, so I don't, I have what's in front of me. I know the mayor spoke about how we have certain things that we would talk about and certain things maybe not within our purview within our committee. But I think that part of sitting on the Community Development Committee, that part of it is to consider all aspects of the community. Yes, we have the MPS, and the MPS is a guideline in terms of bylaws and bricks and mortar and all of that. But we also have to see things in a larger perspective of the community. The name of the committee is the Community Development Committee. And community is more than bricks and mortar, it's the people sitting in that bill. It's why we have our architectural guidelines. It's why we have rules around how we would conduct ourselves. So they are there, and maybe they're not exactly spelled out the same way, how tall a building needs to be and stuff like that in the MPS in the same way, but it still is the guidance that we take. So when we start thinking about this, we do have to consider some of that stuff. Actually have to consider, because it's the greater picture of how the guidelines are produced and why most of us live in Wolfville. Okay, but having said that, coming back to this, we have to think about how we would see occupancy, and as people have said, you know, I've seen a lot of things in Wolfville in 20 years, between moving, I lived in Roselawn for a while myself, and so I've seen that, and I've also seen where people have rented out rooms and then they've done longer things, and all kinds of ways occupancy is done. On a concept basis, I don't really have a problem with this, but the way my colleague over here has spoken, worst case scenario would actually be a bit challenging, more than a little bit challenging. A lot of it, and I understand, I don't have an urban planning background. My background is community development when it comes to people, and not necessarily about bricks and mortar. But when I think about this 20%, if it's all 20% in the summer, really could be a problem in terms of when you talk about on-fair competition, that's where it comes in. More so, my perception is if it's 20% tonight, if you're going to see it that way. Having said that, I mean, as another member of my committee said, business people, the ones that I've met in Wolfville, are not really shy against competition per se. It's not that competition is the problem, it's making sure that there's at least somewhat of an equal playing field. So one of the advices or ideas or queries to bring back to council is one of the suggestions offered from here, or if it wasn't a suggestion, I'm putting, making sure that it's a nightly thing, 20%, so it come out to 20% to 65 units. You know, they were talking about 12 or 13, no more than 12 or 13 a night over the year, as opposed to the summer. Because once we start talking about having 65 units available all summer, we have a full-fledged hotel in downtown Wolfville, and I think that would be a serious problem.
Thank you.